Hey guys, welcome back to the Female Athlete Inner Circle. Today my guest is Jenn Starkey, and we are going to be talking about mental toughness, performance, and her story. I am super excited to be talking to Jenn, so welcome to the call.
Thank you. I'm super excited. I love everything you're doing for female athletes. I'm excited to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So let's start by talking about you were an athlete. So let's start there. What sport did you play? Where did you play?
I like to say I'm still an athlete.
Fair enough. All right, we all are.
Recently re-engaged. So I grew up playing softball. I got an opportunity to play at Long Island University in Brooklyn, New York, which is a small D1 school. And then later I transferred to Savannah College of Art and Design. Now I took a break from sports, but I always had that competitive drive. And I recently fell in love with jiu-jitsu. So I've been competing in martial art jiu-jitsu, and I love it. So it's a way for me to still practice some of the mental performance in sport today.
You are still an athlete. That's crazy. We're all still athletes. I shoot around. I can't run up and down a basketball court anymore because then the next day I can't walk. But
once an athlete, always an athlete, for sure.
Perfect. So you were an athlete, and now your main thing is you are more like a mental toughness performance coach. So how did you get into doing that?
Okay, so it's a great story. Okay, it goes deep, but we'll get through it together. Okay, so when I was young, I had this big goal, big dream. I wanted to play Division I sports, and I wanted to make movies because I believed, if you can make movies, you can impact people emotionally and you can change the world. So like, where can you play D1 softball and make movies? You've got California and New York, right? So, my whole life I was told, you're too short, you're not fast enough, you were born with the slow gene, whatever. I worked really hard, built the relationships with the coach, and I got a scholarship to like my dream school in New York City. It was awesome. Like, we had the Empire State Building in left field. We got to run across the Brooklyn Bridge for our workouts. It was awesome. And like, growing up, my dad was my coach. I remember we would have bucket talks. He would sit there and he would have these conversations about athletes. He'd always talk about the movie Rocky, right? So I know I had like these mental performance lessons growing up. It wasn't until I got into college, my coach gave me this white binder, and in it there was a single page that said, what is mental toughness, right? It was like a pink page. And even through all that, even though I've been given the binder on mental performance, like, I didn't really get it. See, when I was growing up, if you looked at me like, oh my gosh, Jenn, she's so confident. She's so like, she's so strong in her self-image. But when I got to school and I got to that university, I found myself starting to compare myself to my other teammates, right? Feeling like maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I don't belong here. Maybe I'm not actually good enough. And I call it the imposter, right? Like, acting like you're confident, but not really feeling like you're confident inside. And so on one hand, I'm being pulled in this direction of like, oh my gosh, like, I have to prove myself. And on the other hand, I was frustrated because I'm like, I am busting my butt. I'm putting in so much time and effort. I don't feel like I'm being recognized. My teammates aren't even going to class. And so I'm being pulled in these two different directions, pulled and pulled and pulled. If you pull on something hard enough, eventually, it snaps.
Yeah.
So one night, my teammates, my roommates, they were all going out and they were partying. And I'm like, you know what? I just want to be like everybody else. I'm busting my butt. It's not worth it. Like, I don't feel like I fit in. Like, what's going on? I had all this like anxiety building up inside me that I didn't have language for. Didn't have that community around me to like help me understand it. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go. I'm going to have some drinks in the dorms and hang out with some other people. And that night I was sexually assaulted by 3 guys on another team. The next morning, I went to my coach, went to the people at the school, and they're like, well, we're really sorry that happened to you. Maybe you should stay away from them. And then later on, I finally went to the police, and the police basically laughed in my face. And then eventually, I got the courage to call my mom. I'm like, Mom, here's what happened. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so scared. What do I do? And they're like, Jenn, we love you, but we think you need to come home. So while my team was flying off to kick off their season, I flew home. And it wasn't that I lost like my scholarship or my dream of like living in this cool place. It was that at that time I lost my identity of who I was. I'm like, I was supposed to be that Division I softball player, and I was supposed to do all these things. It's like, and now who am I and what do I do? And so that really started the journey of me seeking, right? Like, okay, who am I now? And what does that mean? And then I started hanging out with these amazing athletes, amazing people, and learning from them and applying mental performance principles to my life. And through that, when I started doing lessons and whatnot, I started seeing how I could apply those to my athletes. I didn't know all of the mental performance stuff that I know now, that I now teach athletes. And if I had, I think one, my game would have been way more elevated. I would have been much a stronger, tougher athlete. And two, I think I might not have had so much self-doubt, and I might not have ended up in those situations I ended up in, because I would have been more confident and more trusting of the process. Yeah. And so now I've committed myself to that journey to help others.
Yeah, no, that's a very powerful story. And for everyone listening, we will get back to that story in a different interview. Jenn and I are going to do a different interview about that. Obviously that is, sexual assault, sadly, in this day and age, athletes face, and they faced 10 years ago. So what do you think the number one challenge is, like, youth athletes are facing now?
So on a general level, I get an opportunity to travel all over the US and Canada, and I speak to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of athletes everywhere. And every single place I go, I ask them the same question. I say, hey, on any given week, your average week, what are the top 6 to 10 emotions that you feel? When you're going to school, when you're going to practice, you're waking up in the morning, when you're hanging out with family, what do you feel? I said, just write them down. And they give them a couple minutes, they write it down. And then I'll say, what did you write down first? And they'll say, stressed. I'll go to the next person. What did you write down? Exhausted, tired. And I'll go down, stressed, exhausted, tired, angry, mad, frustrated, sometimes sad, sometimes worthless, sometimes meh. Like meh. It's only until I get to maybe like the 15th, 16th, 17th one, there might be a kid that says happy, right? But it's never the first 10. And I say, like, are you listening? Like, I didn't ask you what negative emotions you feel. I said, what are the average emotions you feel? And I have these note cards. I actually carry them in my purse because the kids write them down on it. And it has these, and it's like note cards and note cards and note cards filled with all these emotions. So the number one thing they're all dealing with is stress, and they don't know what to do with it. So that manifests in a lot of different ways: perfectionism, anxiety, health issues, feeling exhausted and tired all the time. But they have so much pressure put on them, or in their minds, they're putting pressure on themselves, internal, external, and they don't have tools to cope with that stress and to use it to their advantage.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I am the head strength coach at a local private school right outside of Boston. And these kids that come in, they are so incredibly stressed. And you ask them what they're stressed about, and it's, school and this, that. And I want to say to them, it's only going to get worse, though, because as you become an adult, you have much more responsibilities. I don't say that, but I don't even think, like, when we were growing up, we taught, like, coping mechanisms. Not really, but our stress. I mean, I graduated in 99 and then college 2003. I just don't feel like we had those stresses.
Well, it never turns off for them, right? It's like their brain never gets a minute to just shut down.
So true. Our brains don't do that anymore either.
Not anymore, no.
So going into that, I love that you asked them that. I love that you're talking about emotions. So they're stressed, they don't have good confidence in themselves. So kind of leading in, like, what's the mental performance side of this? Like, what do we do with these kids?
Well, let's talk about, you just said they don't have confidence in themselves. And I think in general, in the mental performance space, and in the coaching space, we're actually doing a huge disservice to our kids. And I've been really digging into this concept lately that, we're pushing a message that our kids deserve self-esteem and deserve confidence, right? That they need that to be successful. And they believe, most of the times if you talk to a parent, like, they're like, I don't know what happened with little Susie. She just lost her confidence, right? Like, this is a conversation people have everywhere. Like, they're like, I don't know, like, maybe it's underneath her dirty clothes. Like, I'm going to find it underneath her bed or something, like, where her confidence got lost, right? And the thing is in general, kids' lives are in chaos. They don't actually deserve to feel self-esteem and confidence about where they're at yet. And that's actually okay, right? And that's actually okay, but we think that they have to be confident in order to be successful. And the thing is like, they have to be confident enough in themselves that they know that they can become a confident person. They have to know that they're going to become this awesome person, and that, like, self-reliant and trusting the process, courageous to face the obstacles and to go into the difficult times that lie ahead. But, like, the thing that I have to feel good about myself every single day in order to be successful is a whole nother pressure in itself. Right? Like, I don't have to feel good about myself today in order to still show up and be great and be phenomenal and move towards who I want to become. And so teaching kids, like, hey, it's okay if you don't like where you're at right now. It's okay if you're frustrated. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get there. Like, let's focus on the things you can control. So that's just, like, a concept I've been digging into lately, that, like, we want your kid to be confident. You deserve, you want to have self-esteem in who you are. And if you don't have that, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get there. And I think a lot of kids think that.
Yeah. So when you speak to all these kids or teams that you go around the country speaking to, how do you get them to believe what you're saying?
That's a great question. I wish I had a string. So I have some buy-in exercises that I do. Yeah, I'll have to show you guys this on another call maybe, or I'll show you where you can see the video. I have some exercises that I do that are like little mind games that show them instantly by changing their thoughts and changing what they're focusing on, how it changes an outcome and a result. And it looks like magic when they do it, and they don't understand how it happens. And so then they're just curious. So I build curiosity first. And then as I'm talking to stories, because I can relate to them, like you can relate to them, like every single coach and parent on here, like you've been through the situation. If you listen to kids, like you can understand like where they're coming from. So once you speak into that and they feel understood, now you've got them. And now you can start going through your process or giving them the tools they need to practice, play the games that they need to practice to have their own realizations so they can start building those mental toughness, mental performance tools they need.
So we'll add like a video. If like there's a YouTube video, I'll add it in at the end of the interview so you can see like what you're doing with the string.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I think what you said though, like obviously both of us are females. We're still female athletes, but we've been there. I think like we can relate to these kids on a level that some people just can't. I never had an issue with like kind of my mind, mental toughness. And I don't know why, because when I was growing up, there was nothing out there on mental toughness. Like I really wouldn't be the person to ask because just mentally tough. So what other like drills, exercises would you recommend for these females to work on like their confidence, just mental toughness?
So I created this thing called the MVP performance system, okay? And it's broken down into 3 key pillars. So there's different elements and aspects to mental toughness and mental performance. There's the stuff that you see on the field, like, oh, they're losing focus or they're not resetting. Like there's certain things that you can see on the field, but in reality, like how you show up on the field is how you show up anywhere and everywhere. So there's three pillars. The first pillar is their belief. Right? So what do they believe about themselves? What do they believe about the game? What do they believe about their outcomes? And that's broken down into 3 main parts. So it's broken down into their courage. Like, do they believe like that they deserve to go and put themselves in difficult situations and it's okay to fail? Right? Do they believe that it's okay to fail? Like that's a huge one. Consistency. Like, do they believe that they can trust themselves to follow through? And then comes confidence. But courage always comes before confidence, right? And you can't have certainty, like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to win until you've done the consistent work and had the discipline to know that you can show up consistently and play at a high level, right? So that's belief. So first we've got to make sure that we understand what their actual beliefs about themselves and about the games are. Like when they go up to bat or when they're going and they're shooting a free throw or whatever, like, what do they believe that means about them as a human being? Because a lot of times we're trying to attack, like, to go dive for the ball or go do this. And they actually in their mind are associating that with their worth as a human being. So we have to make sure we understand where is their worth as a human being coming first otherwise you can address all the mental stuff of the game and it's not going to really make much of a deep difference. It's going to keep showing up over and over and they're going to get stuck in that loop. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is state management. So this is, what do they feel? How do they feel? We know girls have to feel good to play good, or guys have to play good to feel good, right?
Someone else said that. I think actually it was Renee Lopez that actually said the same thing you just did. I love it.
Yeah, and it's such a generality. Like I'm not saying like all girls are not equal, right? We all have different personality quirks and belief like that. I'm not saying that everyone is like that. Because there are some girls I coach that they've got to play good to feel good. But in general, like if we're having fun, we play more loose, we play relaxed, our muscles are relaxed, we perform better, we get in the zone, right? So underneath state, I'll give you, this is one of my favorite exercises, okay? So I tell athletes, I said, all right, put your hands up like this in a triangle. Okay, you can go ahead and do it with me if you want.
With you, all right.
Yeah, do it with me. Unless go for it. Do it with me. Okay. So this is like our magical windshield wiper button because like if you're going on a journey and it's raining, like you turn on the windshield wipers. Well, our emotions, how we feel is like the rain. It's like the weather. It comes and it goes. But if it's raining outside, you turn on the windshield wipers, you keep driving. You don't freak out. But in life, when you start feeling that anxiety attack, that weather, you're like, you freeze and you freak out and you're like, I can't move forward, I'm stuck, and you freeze, right? So this is how we turn on the windshield wipers for our emotions. So here's the button.
Yep.
Here's the button. So the first move goes like this. There's three moves. The first move is move your body, move your body, move your body, move your body.
So you start dancing.
You start dancing.
I like this. Okay.
So this is how I teach the kids the 3 ways to shift their state. Okay.
Yep.
So move your body. So that's your physiology, how they move, how they stand, their posture, right? So if they're getting ready if they're on the bench, right, and they're getting ready to go in the game, like you don't want them all slumped over there. Like you want them standing tall, because it actually releases the proper chemicals they need to run faster, throw harder, kick harder, whatever. So you get them to understand that I can change how I feel by moving my body first. Move your body, move your body. So that's the first one. Yep. The second one is what you focus on, what you focus on. Whoop, whoop. Okay.
I love this.
So what you focus on, what you focus on. So that's like the questions they ask. If you ask a kid, hey, like, why does the ball always go over your head? And I always ask the girls, like, why does the ball always go over your head? And they're like, because I'm too short, because I'm not fast enough, because I take a bad jump. And I'm like, okay, does the ball always go over your head? They're like, no, it actually doesn't. I'm like, so why did you just tell me you were too short and too slow and don't take good angles? And they're like, oh, I don't know. It's like, because your brain is like Google.
Yep.
And the question you ask it is the answer it's going to give you. Like if I say, hey, Jen, where's the nearest pizza place? It's not going to say like, Jen, actually you need to go to the most closest salad place because that's the healthier option. I'm talking about me, by the way. Jen.
I know the two Jens. We're going to
so confusing. Okay. So like, but if I'm like Googling like pizza place, it's not gonna be like, actually, Jen, you should probably invest in a salad. Like it's gonna give me what I'm asking. So our brain does the same thing. So now we teach them, all right, if I'm asking myself bad questions, I'm gonna get bad answers. And the last one is move your body, move your body, move your body, move your body, what you focus on, what you focus on. And it's word you say. So what is your language? Yeah. How are you showing up? If you listen to most athletes, you're like, oh, I can't, right? Which is super simple, basic. But they also might say things like, they might have keywords that they're using, stay back. Well, does that give my brain the instruction that I actually need in order to be successful? Stay low, maybe. Attack, right? So using language that is empowering. A lot of times I'll ask girls questions like, on any average week, what are the questions that you're asking yourself? They kind of link into each other. And they might say like, why do I feel so alone? Or, why do I suck at this? Why do I suck at everything? These are things that it's not just isolated here and there. It's like everywhere I go, a kid says this. Like, why do I suck at life? Like everywhere I go, a kid says this. And it's like, okay, what's the opposite but true version of that? Like, why don't you suck at life? Like, why are you so awesome at life? Okay, so why are you so awesome at life? And then as soon as they make that shift from this to the opposite version of that, you see them light up, and all of a sudden their brain starts flooding them with answers of like, I am awesome at life. This one girl I was talking with in Kansas City, she was one of those that said, why do I suck at life? And I was like, okay, what's the opposite of sucking? And she's like, being awesome. I'm like, okay. I said, so if you ask yourself, why are you so awesome at life? What does your brain tell you? Because your brain's like Google. She's like, because I was born that way. And it was like, the whole audience was just like, whoosh. And I'm like, thank you for being vulnerable, because every single person in the audience has thought that at one point in time. You looked in the mirror and you're just like, oh, why am I like this? Right? And if you're going to ask yourself, why am I like this? You also have to acknowledge, why am I like this over here? And so awesome. And it was so good. So
well, I love it. I mean, we just met, kind of connected. We've emailed a little bit, but I just like, in watching you and listening to you and learning from you, you have like great energy. I mean, you had me laughing, and I'm just thinking like, I want to dance a little bit. So I can only imagine like the kids are going to feed off it. The kids will feed off your energy, your positivity. So that's more kind of for all the coaches out there that are listening, or even like the athletes that are listening, like your positivity, your energy, your body language goes a long way with what everyone's doing. So, no, I think what you just said was great.
So talking about energy, like I tell the girls, like, you have a choice. You can be a light bulb or you can be a power plant. Like, what do light bulbs do? Right? Light bulbs, they like screw in, they have to be plugged into the wall in order to light up. Or you can be a power plant, you can generate your own energy. So one of the things as a coach, that if you're a coach watching this, is like teaching your girls how to generate energy and shift momentum using those state tools. Then move your body, what you focus on. Moving your body is a huge way to generate energy. Like, that's why kids come together and they do those huddles before the game. In the beginning, as a coach, I think when you're developing a new team, you do have to bring the energy, because if you're not having fun as a coach, your team's not going to have fun. It's like that energy that comes from your heart, like that's actually like an electrical pulse that actually emanates from your body, is real. Like they've done studies on it scientifically. We could talk about it. And if you're coming with that inside of you, it's going to like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like transmit, I guess, to all of your players. They're going to absorb whatever you bring. At some point, the goal, my goal is always to shift it to where now I'm neutral. I bring zero positive or negative. I'm neutral, and the girls create their own. So that way they have the tool to always create their own, and they're not reliant on me. That's how you develop leaders, is you teach them to generate their own so they're not reliant on you. And as a coach, you remain neutral during the ups and downs. So when they're on a down, it doesn't shift for them.
Do you work with a lot of coaches on what you just talked about? Because with coaches, they're either like really like manic, or like some of them need to work on their body language. Do you work with coaches to try to make them neutral, so when there's like 1 minute left in the basketball game and they were down by 4, or like it's the bottom of like the 7th inning, like do you work with coaches?
I work with coaches only in context like this. Like I'll make videos on my Facebook page and stuff like that. I'm really committed at this time focusing on the athletes. That's where my heart is right now. I do work with coaches when they come to my clinics and whatnot, and I'll have conversations with them. And here's the other thing. Like there was a really great article posted the other day about the coach from FSU, Florida State University, who just won the Women's College World Series. And it's like the message of the story was she had to be herself while coaching, right? And so even while I'm saying like the goal is to be neutral, like that is for a particular outcome I'm trying to create. And the outcome I'm trying to create is to give the girls the tools to create their own energy. I'm not saying like you have to be someone you're not while you're coaching, because if you're trying to be someone you're not, that's also not going to work. And so I'm not trying to say that, but as we develop ourselves as coaches or as athletes, right? Practicing these skill sets, that's valuable. And knowing what the outcome you're trying to create from it is also important.
Yeah. No, when you were talking just about coaches kind of being neutral, I was just curious if like there are like mental, like toughness, mental performance, like people that work just with coaches, because
oh yeah,
the leader. I never really thought of it that way. I've only thought of like athletes. So when you said that, I'm like, I wonder if like certain coaches, especially like the real successful ones, like do they work with someone about their body language and what they're kind of bringing off to their team? That's just kind of just popped in my head as we were chatting.
Great idea. Maybe we were on to something there.
I'm gonna stick in my realm. No. So I've loved chatting with you because I love that you were an athlete and you had a kind of a tragic thing in your life, but you turn it around for the better. I think you're helping a ton of athletes now. I mean, I love your energy. I love your message. If people want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I realized just as you're talking, I'm like, we didn't even talk about the third pillar. That's okay. We'll save it for another day.
No, you can, if you want to go into the third pillar, and then we can show people, yeah.
I was just going to say, if you go to I just set up a new link just for your people today. Go to MVP, like most valuable player, or mission, value, purpose, right? Like MVPgameplan.com. I'm going to link that to where it goes to my private Facebook group. And so I'll post that video in there with the string, and I'll post a little bit more in depth, answer any questions people have in there. So MVPgameplan.com, that'll link over to the Facebook group. You can get in there, ask me questions, and then I kind of go a little bit more in depth and tools for parents as well there.
So what is, out of just curiosity for me, what is the Facebook group? What's the name of the Facebook group?
Oh, it's called the MVP Performance System. Yeah, it's called MVP Performance System. So that's where I go on date, but I'm going to direct that link over so it's easy for people to find.
Awesome. We'll put it at the bottom so people can find you. So I love chatting with you the last 30 minutes. We are definitely going to be continuing the conversation. And yeah, I look forward to connecting with you in the future.
Yeah, and you're awesome. I'm super excited about what you're doing for female athletes. Anything I can do to support. People need what you're bringing to this world, so keep doing it.
Thanks, Jen. I appreciate it. I'll talk soon.
Thanks. Bye.